Hello, welcome to your reading. I don't know why I use that accent. Um, so let's get down to it. Um, I'm in a very weird room. It's I'm at my mom's in America, and I guess I'll give you a tour. It's just like I don't know. I'm weird, and I just like having a space where I know no one can hear anything I'm saying. I have complete just I can do whatever I want. So I'm in this room. Like and there's like a door here and there's another door and then there's like a kind of like part of the house downstairs of the house. So I'm like, yeah, got these like whatever this is, servers. I don't even know what all that stuff is, what that wiring's for, who knows. But we're here and I actually like this room, weirdly enough. So let's tuck my thing in and let's start talking. So I have your chart pulled up. Otherwise, the background. Okay. I'll just leave your first name. I usually do only initials, but I like that your first name matches where you're born. Monica from Santa Monica. It's cool. Um, so yeah, yeah. We got a Pisces moon. So you got me and you have a moon sun conjunction. How awesome is that? My sun and Mercury are 28 Pisces. Your moon's 25 Pisces. So that's right off the bat. It's kind of a somewhat typical thing for me to have my clients really match me in some type of way, like I see why they felt called to have it done by me. Because basically my Mercury, especially for a reading like this, right? My Mercury, my communication with my sun, you really connect with that Pisces side of me, right? um and the reading obviously is Mercury. I'm speaking, I'm using my brain, so it's going to have a direct, it's like one of the better, like, you know if I could find an astrologer whose Mercury was 21 Sag, my moon, I'd be delighted. I would be delighted. Okay, one quick second though. 1 second. Okay, so as we were, so besides the Pisces moon, we've got the sun in Gemini. Okay, so you have that. I know I have friends who have that. That's what Kanye West has, So there's always issues with grounding when it comes to that. Those, that duo, right? It's double mutable. And it makes one very, very creative. Um, but as you can tell with Kanye, for example, and my friend Gigi, who's also like very, like, it can make one very talented when it comes to esoteric, but there can be this real feel, like really feeling misunderstood. It's not Aquarius, but like this combo is very like alien, kind of just like it can make madmen, madwomen, but also creative geniuses like Kanye. I'm not saying he's a madman. I'm just saying he's a creative genius. But he's a little bit wild. He's a wild one too. So yeah, basically the way, it's very important when you have those two to ground yourself. Especially with your moon in the sixth house, right? it's I don't want to bite my tongue or eat my own words because oh my God, I see what I did wrong. You see, wait, no, I didn't do anything wrong. What was I thinking? Yeah, okay. We're good. So it's very important, I'll continue, to ground yourself. Like you with this combo have to understand that having a Pisces moon and a Gemini sun, like you can just be in another world. Like that is the combo. If I see someone with that, I'm like, this person has unbelievable potential to, understand all kinds of concepts and really get deep with the esoteric and, you know, be a creator, a visionary, a artist. But then we look and we see, okay, is there any earth, right? We have to know if there's any earth. My guess is no. Rising Libra. So we have a whole bunch of first house Libra. And we got a Venus. Okay, we got a Venus and Taurus. It's a beautiful placement there. The question then becomes, is Venus and Taurus enough to, ground this energy, right? I wouldn't be so sure, but it is something. It is, Venus is important. And, even though I would have probably preferred to see that, Mars, in Taurus in terms of like, giving you that grounding, it's still one of the personal planets and it still can definitely help. Um, Now your rising is Libra, so your chart's ruled by Venus in Taurus instead. Um, Making that planet even more important in the eighth house. Now, the North Node is in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, and they're in the opposite houses because you're Libra rising. So in your Libra rising, everything gets flipped. Remember that the first house over here is usually Aries, or no, not usually. It's the house of Aries. Each house is, it's not exact, but you can basically think of it like the first house is Aries, very Aries like. The second house is very Taurus like. Third house Gemini like, and so on and so forth. 10th house Capricorn, 11th house Aquarius, 12th house Pisces. Right? Like you can think of it like that. Some astrologers will be like they're not the same. It's like it's very very similar. Um. So so with the Libra rising, everything gets flipped. So your sixth house Pisces moon is in the house of Virgo. It's opposite sign. Your ninth house, your sun in Gemini in ninth house that's the house of Sag. So I believe Libra risings it's very karmic and very interesting to be a Libra rising because I think that it makes every axis like automatically it turns every axis on. Like because the axis are the six opposite signs. So for example, Virgo in Pisces, the opposite energy, but it's the same energy, excuse me, but the opposite manifestation. So the fact that your Pisces moon is in the house of Virgo, automatically we have to talk about, okay, well, what's the balance between Virgo and Pisces? Well, it is about, you know, there's an emotional need for being in the imaginary world, right? There's a huge need for that for you. And you do have square with Neptune and Sun square moon. So you have Sun square moon. That's one of I had that too, but yours is closer. But it's one of the most difficult aspects in astrology. And then you have Neptune, and so there's a T-square with with Neptune, Moon, and Sun. Damn, that's crazy. And Black Moon Lilith is kind of thrown in there too. Interesting. Do you see that? It's a T-square, square, square, opposition. So it gets shot out into the 12th, so it makes it even more important. Um, wow, super fascinating right off the bat. Because Moon in this position, right? Moon in Pisces, in it's requiring some grounding. Because there can be a tendency to be too daydreamy, too in like the imagination realms, you know? Um, so that's why there's like this big need for the Pisces energy to be able to ground itself, you know, to have too much Pisces is like having all the ideas, but not having the plan, the step-by-step process of what it takes to get there. See what I'm saying? So you need to have both Pisces intuition, Pisces, just dream, the ability to dream. You have an emotional need to be able to dream, to be able to be in touch with your imagination, to be able to be in your imaginary world, and for escape, like escaping reality. But the thing is like the Pisces moon needs to find a constructive way to do that, an outlet, right? Because there can be very many like bad ones, like addiction, for example, right, is prominent. Um, uh, or even not addiction, just not dealing with reality is a thing that some Pisces moons can go through, where they just or self delusion, right? They self like kind of like fooling themselves and just allowing themselves to live this sort of lie, I guess. Um, and deep inside they know it, but yeah, just like self-sabotage, right? These types of things. So the highest energy is about doing things like creativity, music, or anything related to things like that, right? You know, Spirituality, huge, right? Like grounding your energy, like a Pisces moon is super psychic, right? They're super intuitive and in touch with other people's energies. So they can be so in touch with that they need alone time. They need time alone. That's where they recharge. The Pisces moon needs that. And as a Gemini, the reason they're square, which usually speaks to a divorce of the parents. If it's not a divorce, it's a disagreement, a very large disagreement between the parents. And in terms of their worldviews and who they are, and you having like these two conflicting views. And yeah, so sun square moon, it just makes it so there's like this energy where on one end, hold on a second, where am I? Okay. So yeah, it's just this conflict between the feminine and the masculine side of yourself, right? Um, and it really feels like there's two mouths that need to be fed, and this inner tension. Now, this does tend to catapult people towards success because it's this tension. Like I said, I have it too. Two very different energies, right? So the Pisces side of yourself, and me and you have very very close, similar ones. I'm Sag Pisces, you're Pisces Gemini. It's only like Gemini is the opposite side of Sag. So yeah. So this is very similar to what I have going on, right? And basically, there's one part of you that wants to be social, that wants to go out in the world, and wants to learn, and talk and meet all these people and do this. But then the Pisces moon, that part of you, which runs the show, it's the undercurrent. That is the part of you that is ultimately so sensitive and extremely sensitive to the people around you. But the Gemini might throw yourself into different situations, and then the Pisces moon might be like, so it's like this interplay between one part that wants to sit home and meditate and be like an introvert and kind of rejuvenate in their alone time, right? Almost like alien energy, right? Pisces, like very like alien energy, misunderstood also energy. And then the Gemini, yeah, it's like it's more in this reality, but still, you know, Geminis can be crazy, like they can be all over the place, right? So with this combo, with everyone I've seen with this, there's always the theme of like how their lives can just go out of control unless they find a really steady routine that they can, you know, have each day. Also, your work, you know, your workplace is very important. That's, you know, because you'll be very affected by it, and it is at 22. So you have 22 degrees. You have your part of fortune on your midheaven, like I do. Wow, so that's actually really good for success. The thing is, it's at 22 degrees. It's a tough degree, you know. It's a Capricorn degree, so it just means you'll have to go through lots of trials and tribulations to really get there. But then your north node's also connected to the you know to the you know in Cancer, to that energy. So, you know, a really good career for someone like you would be like someone like a psychologist. I know you probably already decided your career, but whatever. You know, something where you're able to help people in some way, or like a therapist or a coach or whatever. You know, something in a healing field, or you know, cancer is also real estate, so you never know. Um, but and, you know, you with your Libra rising and Pluto on the ascendant, that gives you lots of power. Like even though your Libra rising, which can be in Mars, which can be very indecisive and people pleasing, the fact that, you know, Pluto is rising in Saturn, it adds a very dynamic energy, but then a restrictive energy. So it's just back and forth between being like very dynamic, unlibra-ish, but then like it's like I don't even know how that'd work out. I don't think you have a follow up, but if you do book one, we can talk about that. If like you know are more like if it's more of a shy energy, or if it's more of a like powerful like people feel your presence when you walk in type energy. Um. So yeah. So yeah. Basically, like you know, the Libra will complement the all that Libra will complement the Gemini. It'll make you and, you know, your Mercury's in Gemini too, so in dignity, good for intelligence, in the ninth house. But really, you're trying to, you know, with your sun in Gemini ninth house, once again, another polarity is 3 and 9, Sag and Gem, is combining the lower mind, you know, like if you were a journalist going through life and getting all this data with the higher mind, the higher concepts. So in this life, you're trying to really connect everything and then have this higher truth, right? This higher truth that you kind of have as your truth, you know, the truth of you that you hold that, and then basically after that, it's about going into your career, into what you're meant to be doing, and having whatever truth you found in your travels or your studies, your metaphoric or physical travels, you know, metaphoric travels could be just learning about tons of different things, but watch out, you know, because you also don't want to start too many things and be scattered. That's kind of the low Gemini, even low Sag, you know, like a low of that energy, of that axis is like to so like it's basically like the ideal is to try a lot, but then when you find the few things that you like and that you love and you're good at and you enjoy all that, whatever, to just like focus on like those three or a few, like really try to focus in on a few things. Um, so mm, yeah. So yeah, that's like the Pisces moon. Like they need, so in relationships, like they can be really, really affected by the partner's energy. So they really need you know, partners who are sensitive to that, who understand that they, you know, need their alone time, and you know, who are, you know, maybe have a little water in their chart also, could be nice, right? Could feel very reassuring to have someone that also has that. We can, because the water is very hard for, it's very hard for people without water to understand water, right? It's very, very hard. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you have to like that'd be like the only way, but like that's something that's very important, right? So aside from that, um, you clearly have a very dynamic creative energy. So you have to find these outlets and you have to keep learning, try new things. But then the North Node. So the North Node being in the 10th house means that your career and your Dharma, like there's been basically you're trying to balance out because it's once again everything's opposite. So you're trying to balance out Capricorn and Cancer. So how do you do that? Well, you do that by, with Cancer and Capricorn, it's about bringing together the feminine and the masculine, right? With North Node and Cancer by itself, you're really meant to dive more into your feminine side in this lifetime, right? But then it's in the 10th house, so you're meant to do that in a way like it's really like when this happens, I really think it's about finding that balance between home life and work life, balance between inner life and outer life, between social life and spending time alone, between in every all those areas, right? Gender, like the qualities of different genders, it's about having that balance. So it's like you have to ask yourself, you know, do you favor your feminine or your masculine side? Masculine being like the action, go get it oriented energy, right? Feminine being the more emotional, passive, taking things in, intuitive, spiritual. Um, Masculine being more about, yeah, like conquest and and purpose and yeah, going after what you want, so that's important. And your career is a conduit through that. So if you're able to do something where you work with 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 people in an emotional way, it could be great. Now you also have Pluto squaring your midheaven, which is interesting because it makes and then Chiron sextiling it. So and then your ascendant, yeah. So that makes me think that your your career, well, because you have Pluto in your first house on your ascendant, you likely, have this kind of dynamic power. And the question becomes, does this power that you have, this personal power that might be you know, too much for some people. People might see as domineering, even though it is in Libra, which is a very agreeable sign. So maybe it's not like that, but like um you know, how can that affect your career? Now, a lot of times this indicates like early, hardship early in life, um, because it's also, of course, square the IC, right? So, so Pluto square IC, you know, a lot of people who have that, they have to move around a lot as kids, or like there could have been some kind of illness, separation from parents for some time, uh like sometimes there's like one of the parental relationships was very destructive or both. I saw like a probably a divorce most likely. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't, so that could have had a huge effect on you. But a lot of times there's one parent that where it's like a destructive energy, and then the other one where it's like very close and supportive. um so there could have been like, yeah, like poverty, abuse, pain, like very like unwanted changes in childhood. And what it does is it makes you extremely ambitious to get ahead in life and it feel important. Um, but also makes you want to have like it gives you a deep desire to understand the why, the deep why, to investigate, the meaning of life and the meaning in your life, and find a deeper meaning in your life, which is your son's asking you for that, right? Um, so yeah, and usually people who have this, they don't like the kind of dull existence and the routine, and they want to analyze and get deep with things, Usually, yeah, like really into spirituality, like kind of esoteric. Um, a lot of people who have this believe in reincarnation, all that stuff, and I know you believe in. And yeah, so there's like lots of power to do good or bad, right? It's really about like the shadow work that you've done or haven't done. And what can happen if there was a lot of early hardship is that there can be lots of concealed hostility, like repressed anger that can manifest in extreme ways, which can actually make you succeed because it's like this chip on your shoulder to prove yourself in your career. But sometimes it could be like cheating, like using people to get ahead, intimidation, things like that, subversive tactics, right? Um, so, but also on another way, and there's the potential for you to be the victim of those exact things, right? So people who have this, sometimes they have like immoral, unethical behavior that brings them glory and wealth. Um, but also it leads to tumultuous relationships, like revenge, criticism, all these types of things. So it's like all about, not creating that type of karma. Um, and what else? Yeah, it definitely gives like a superpower for one to achieve their goals, especially the sun square moon. Also, it's just like, can you ground yourself well enough to do it, and can you figure out what that passion is? There might be too many of them. Um, but yeah, the key is to transform and reform your own life. Shadow work and going deep in yourself, and it can make make someone who can make other people's lives better, a healer, right? Who can enjoy beneficial relationships. But there can be a tendency to see the other person as a threat until the healing comes. Um, so it's, yeah, really important to accept things as they are. Change is a big part of your life. When you have this, and you probably start early, so it can feel like root chakra energy can be off, which is like feeling like you belong, like you're secure, stuff like that. Um, which is very, very important when you're a Gemini Pisces, right? It can make it really, really hard to like control yourself and feel balanced. Um, so you gotta watch out for the substances. So yeah, it's just really about like us, like acceptance and just going with the flow, and just that Pisces, leaning that Pisces moon, just like acceptance, you know, not trying so hard to just change everything, control everything. Of course you want to improve yourself, accept advice and stuff like that. That's important also, is to really like listen to others and accept advice, and allow yourself to be, allow yourself to accept help. Um, yeah. So that's an interesting one. Um, and then so yeah, it kind of all combines because we see that all this Libra energy, Libra Mars in the first house. Libra Mars is very, very there's a big need for Libra Mars people to have a something that they can put all their energy into creatively. Like they need to have a creative outlet, right? Now your Venus is in Taurus, so you have your chart ruler in a dignity position. So you have a very strong Venus. The thing is that it's conjunct Chiron. So this is good and bad. Now, Venus, your chart ruler in Taurus, super strong planet for you, 17 degrees, right? That's the fifth sign, um, which is of course Leo. So there's a big need for you to, you love to go deep into the esoteric, into, you know, um, it gives you this like this like a flashlight when you're investigating the esoteric. If that makes sense. Like you're not afraid. Like the gates to the underworld are open to you, and you don't feel like so held back exploring things that like death, that might, or like reincarnation, things like that that might freak some other people out. Doesn't freak you out. Which you could also be like a very good, like, what's it called, like a doula. Yeah. Um, but then the fact that Chiron in Taurus is on your Venus in Taurus is huge. Now the reason for that is Chiron represents wounds. So the fact that Venus is your chart ruler, that you have all this Libra energy that's kind of channeling itself into your Venus in the 8th house, you might actually be someone who has very hidden artistic talents. I've seen this often, as people who, you know, might have like an amazing voice, but might be too shy to like sing besides when they're alone, or just amazing talents, which I know you do. I know you're super creative for sure. There's no way you're not. There's no way you're not. But with the Chiron there, that is in Taurus, that's about self-esteem. That's straight up about self-esteem, self-worth. Now, when we add the fact that you have your sun square moon, and then moon square, and then Neptune, in square and in opposition to both of them, right? This Neptune over here is really clouding your perception of yourself. On the sun and the moon. See how that's wild. So Neptune, so that makes you like super Pisces. Even though you're Gemini, your sign is Pisces for sure, 1000%. I mean, you have Neptune opposite your sun, Neptune in Pisces, is the ruling planet of Pisces, and then it's squaring your already Pisces moon. So you're very, very Pisces. Pisces is your sign. You're a lot more Pisces than I am. I'm a Pisces sun. So, yeah. So that is a difficult one because it it creates a tension between your idealistic inner visions and the core purposes you have in your life, right? Um, it also gives like an amazing imagination and ability to inspire others, but yeah, like there can be like lots of like inferiority complexes, and yeah, but it does add like tons of empathy. So you're such an empath that you might feel like overwhelmed by how much of an empath you are. But yeah, it can definitely add insecurities, which are shown here too, right? But like as I was saying, the Venus in Chiron together. So how do you fix the Venus and Chiron? Well, Venus, and Chiron together will make you a healer, but you have to really heal that part of you that has to do with self-love and self-acceptance. You have to learn to accept yourself, right? Until then, it's very difficult. Um, so very huge, huge, huge importance. I'm leaving the room for a second, so I hope you hear me well. I might just stop talking if I think that you can't hear me. But 1 second. But yeah, with Neptune in this position, Sun and Moon, lot of talk, a lot of confusion uh, around what's the word? Which there's definitely identity crisis, and because it's opposite your moon, square your sun, that typically that'll show up in both ways. In the two most important planets having Neptune in hard aspect, it's crazy, right? It's so it's very hard for you to see yourself clearly, objectively. You might have like a very like up and down idea of not only who you are and what in your purpose and your identity and all that stuff, but also the way it affects the emotions. That of course your moon is already in Pisces, so it's not like it's so foreign, but to have that does add a level of it adds even more extremity to someone who might be so overly empathetic, um, that it's almost disabling to the point of like when they're around other people, uh, just feeling everything, like like so like you know I've had lots of clients who've had similar things, and I talk to them, and I always say this in the reading, they're like, you're so spot on when you said this. It's like they want to help people, they want to do things like, like what I'm doing, or counseling, or whatever, but they feel things so intensely that it's almost like they it makes it like it's so important to learn how to protect your own energy, and to learn how to harness your own boundaries, and energetic boundaries, and not be triggered by things, right? Because it's very easy for you to be triggered by things, and to take things on that are not your own, emotional things, right? So how do you learn that? Well, um, it's difficult. It's not an easy thing, but I think that the more you meditate, the more you have your routine dialed in, the better it is. But yeah, I mean, just by itself, having those two together is huge. Venus in Chiron, I mean, there is going to be like by having a creative outlet, you heal via that. And the key also is to get away from like oh yeah, there's another huge part about boundaries. I have to really go into boundaries, because like having Libra and Pisces is major parts of your chart. Those are the two signs that lack boundaries the most. So yeah, like this Neptune energy, it can make someone usually not very competitive, and you lack fire in your chart as well. So like motivation can be very difficult for you. And just like people lacking fire, I always think of it as like, is that energy that just like makes you want to just like become obsessed with something in that moment. Like, just like you read one astrology book, you're like I have a lot of fire, right? So like, for example, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. Let's go. You know, People who have too much fire, it burns fast, and they're just like obsessed with something for like a month, and then they just forget about it. But when you lack fire, one thing I would do is I would like do fire meditations, candle meditations. You can look it up, but basically just like staring at the tip. Well, I don't have to much information. Staring at the tip um, of a candle, and while meditating. I mean, I don't know if there's stuff online about that. I learned it from my friends, but having that in your bag is very important. 1 second. Hold on. Something weird just happened. I need to like try something. Okay. I just had the reading I did like a few hours ago load, and I thought it was way longer. I thought it was like, I didn't time it, but actually it wasn't crazy long. 1 second. Hold on. I need to. Okay, that is really worrying. I just totally unrelated to your reading, but I just like played the audio. I'm hoping that's because I'm like recording this, but it was like rah, rah, rah. And if that's the case, and my audio is off for that reading, I'm gonna be super sad because there's times where it was like it sounded good, and there's times where it was just like rah, rah, rah. And I hope that's not the same for this one. Oh my god, it'd be so bad. Uh, please no, please no. But let me do a microphone test. Okay. Test mic. Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test. Okay, so it's good here. But anyways, so back to where we were. Where'd the chart go? Disappeared. Yeah. So in essence, like, there's definitely a huge need for resolution with boundaries, right? A huge need for that. And for seeing yourself clearly. And the best way to do that is diving into the self, doing healing work, death, rebirth, transformation, right? I really think you could be meant to be a healer. But yeah, getting past like self-esteem issues, would have been more difficult for you. Chiron and Venus together, it gives like a very childlike innocence, which can, especially in relationships, which can make someone, vulnerable to emotional pain. It can make someone fear commitment, also rejection, lots of pain in early relationships usually. But then it's about, that's where the healing comes in, right? Which gives you lots of wisdom, and it gives you the ability to really see the beauty in people, like the people who have been like cast aside by others, and really be like a very intimate kind of healer. So it's about like your journey is like about finding that self-esteem balance, um, or finding that, that really finding that sense of who you are, that identity, right? And the best way is through creativity, through creating. Also with Neptune, yeah, like filming yourself, like Neptune, it rules cameras. So doing like a daily vlog where you speak about your emotions. You like I don't know if you saw my post the other day. Like I just like wrote like a journal entry and then I decided to post it. Like that kind of thing, right? Where you're just getting it out because you have Uranus in the third, which will give you downloads when you're writing and when you're communicating. Also Neptune there. So you can be a very, very amazing communicator. So it's like, yeah, writing or communicating something in that realm is going to really help you out. Um, but yeah, like that conflict between kind of your nature and your emotional needs is huge, right? And a lot of times, the parents didn't agree on how to bring you up. Like both parents had like different ways. So yeah, it's all about just like trusting your intuition, your trusting that Pisces moon, right? And being assertive and following neither mother or father, right? Just finding your own way, what it asks you for, blaze your own trail. Now, yeah, the thing with boundaries though, so it definitely, this definitely makes someone very susceptible to energy vampires. So that's something that has to be looked at closely and understood. Um, because that the nature of this like can, yeah, just make you very like, it's very important to have boundaries, to have relationships, especially to like understand that you need your alone time, you need your space, you recharge yourself in your alone time. So um that is key, right? So with that said, there can be people pleasing tendencies, and with Saturn on the ascendant also, there can be a tendency to be it usually makes people kind of well, it's very good for being very responsible, but there can be like lots of feeling very inhibited from expressing your true essence, especially early in life, right? But then with time, you really gain respect, and you're a very hard worker. It makes one very responsible. But then when you have Pluto there, as I said before, that is a very powerful, very insightful placement, right? Um, like people notice when you're around. You have that kind of intense energy, right? Even though it is, you know, Libra. So yeah, there's like an intense side to your nature, which can really makes an impact on your surroundings. So it's like kind of how those two balance each other out is interesting to think about. And the Pluto one's a little bit closer, but not by much. And Mars, I guess, yeah, it's not, it's in the first house. So in Libra, that is there is a strong drive for self-expression, for independence, to meet life head on. But then in Libra, there's this like back and forth, like should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? That indecisiveness. And also it gives a strong, drive to be diplomatic and have justice, and very strong creative urge, as I said before. But it's important to have partners and people around you who aren't like controlling you. You need to basically like have that firm set of values, which is based on that ninth house sun, about like about your beliefs and your truth, and then having that guide you into your career and all your decisions. So when it comes to dating and it comes to relationships, I think, okay, well, the first part about the moon, right, is very important. Like I said, someone who understands that part of you, because it can make one prone to depression to have moon exactly square Neptune like that. Lots of confusion, feeling caught in a web of emotions. But it's all about like learning to value the softer side of your nature, right? That Pisces side. And then directing that into creative pursuits and things that are like healthy escape, as I said before. So yeah, and then the fact that there could be some issues with the mother for sure, with both parents. um with the son, you know that a lot of people who have that, they allow people to tell them how they need to live their life, um and they can lack self-confidence, and it goes back to that kind of like people pleasing nature, not wanting to upset other people. So it's all about the challenge is to use that artistic and sensitive nature to your benefit, right? um without losing yourself. So like benefiting other people, using all these gifts you have, um to help other people, but not losing yourself within that. So yeah, spending alone time is really, really helpful for that. And the camera trick is one that works really, really well for people with charts like yours. um so yeah, then the moon square black moon Lilith. I mean, here it definitely speaks to more issues with the mother, but also if you look at it romantically, it's a very challenging aspect. It's very powerful because it's really like it makes me go through um, constant, intense kind of relationships, and there's like a pattern that has to be broken. Um, and sometimes as a kid, they have to choose between mother and um, you know, like choose between parents. You know, just lots of like kind of like choices you have to make on your own. which can be hard, right, with this chart. And it can also put someone in a position where there's like huge demands to make like heartbreaking decisions, um, which in the end sometimes will exile them from their family. Um, and the lesson is that you can't please everyone, right? Um, and a lot of times, people who have this, they end up hurting, like they'll always end up like hurting someone. Um, so it's better to just pick the solution that makes you happiest, right? Um, so there can be like a sex addiction, drugs, like things like low like escapist stuff here, tendencies, because there's so much pressure. But if you're able to come through it, it's all about like the phoenix rising from the flames, right? Um, and you learn all these amazing life lessons through traumas that can become like inspirational, like leaving the darkness, right? Um, yeah, so it's like the mother and the anti-mother, right, like understanding that. Um, so yeah, definitely something with like sexuality too. And that there can be like triangular relationships that show up. um so it can make like control around that area of life difficult. And yeah, there can be like kind of out of controlness of sexuality, or like the opposite, where it's like the need to like really be in control, like super super in control. um like this is actually like pimps, like this is like what like a placement you'd see like in a chart of a pimp, for example. um so yeah, um basically like it's about like allowing the moon, that Pisces moon, to kind of restrain some of that darker Lilith energy. Um, and yeah, it's like the forbidden fruit energy, right? And it can make one fall for addicts, for like very dark people. So people who like you bleed them dry. But also on the plus side, it's a very creative aspect, right? Um, Creates like a magnetic energy. And it's quite subtle. So it's like an invisible undercurrent of intuition. And gives like a very good like instinct. So it's about like following that, right? And yeah, yeah, it can make one kind of mm, yeah, like want to like really find the truth, and like kind of clash with the tradition and stuff like that. So the fact that it's in Sag is interesting because Black Lilith and Sag can be about you know pushing your truth too much on other people, right? Pushing your opinions, your ideals, your philosophies, and not being it's like the big need to like allow other people to have theirs and staying firm in your own, right? And like I said, writing and communicating, whatever it is, and then you have is key. And then Jupiter, you have that in Scorpio, so it's like in retrograde, so at 0 degrees. So it's like that's a very strong in Scorpio, like second house, like that's very good for. I mean, it does kind of make it so like you're on this new karmic path in terms of like your esoteric and your depth knowledge, right? Um, it makes you like an inwardly very philosophical person, someone who really like it's very psychic, like very very intense, truth seeker, um, very strong desires for sexual union, for kind of combining like very intensely, and it makes one like a very transformative kind of teacher and healer, right? Um, it's all in the second house. It's very good for money. Jupiter in second house is kind of like you can think of it as like a financial guardian angel. I always have people who have this, and I'm like, it's very common the story. I'm like, the person loses their job, they think they're gonna get, they're like, oh, this sucks, and then like their friend messages them 2 weeks later, like, hey, there's a new position at my job, and then they get it, and then it's like a better job, better pay, better environment, all that stuff. So that's usually how it plays out. Also, it's good for self-esteem, and someone who gains joy through their possessions and through their what they earn. But the thing to watch out for is having the self-esteem too tied to money and things, material stuff. It's about finding that true personal power, right, of Scorpio, of the death rebirth transformation. My beard's at that link. Do I need to shave it? It's scratching me. Um. So yeah. Um. And then Mercury, being opposite Uranus is interesting because that definitely creates someone who is very rebellious in terms of like they'll have a very very different kind of thought process, like very very unconventional, and that goes with the Gemini Pisces theme, right? um like, but sometimes there can be like a tendency to thrust these very original, kind of out of the ordinary, kind of future oriented, like just like sometimes genius ideas onto other people too much, right? Kind of like with Black and Lilith. And yeah, it's sometimes people who can fail to defend other people's, like who can fail who like will defend their points of views so much that they'll get in clashes and not allow people to have their own. um so it's really about like learning to respect all forms of communication and thinking, and like agreeing to disagree, right? But yeah, in childhood it could definitely like make one feel as though like the way they think, especially if the parents are more traditional. Oh, scratchy, scratchy. Um, you'll be very big picture oriented. So closed-minded people, you know, can be very annoying to you. And then it's very important to not give in to their thoughts, right? Um, because of all that Pisces Libra, that's something that can happen. So very important there. So what else can I say about that? What else can I say about that? Yeah, it's also really good for like having like a lightning fast intellect, very brilliant. Yeah, this is like Uranus, Neptune, or Mercury can create geniuses. But also yeah, rebels. And the mind needs like a lot of stimulation. So that goes back to Gemini of like not like the need to like kind of ground, because there can be like anxiety that comes from this, right? Because there's so much going on up there. And so like keeping mentally busy, so having work that is mentally challenging to you, is very important. But you really want to question everything, so you need to have that freedom to question everything. And it can make someone to discover, um, like very inventive, like I said. But yeah, the whole thing is like getting your message across. That's like where the refinement is needed. And there can be like some need to overcome like nervousness. So yeah, communicating via the internet is very helpful to build confidence, and even just filming yourself and not showing anyone, that kind of stuff. It can make someone very blunt, very rebellious, right? And also like quite good at debate and arguing. But it's all about, there's a huge need to learn to listen. Because there can be like this instinct to like just take the opposite opinion, right? Um, so yeah, it usually brings lots of critics to your kind of alternative views. A lot of times, people have this will be more like not conspiracy theories, but just truth seeking, um, and they can be seen as like eccentric. So it's important to have, the other people that see the world like you around you, right? Um, People with different cultural backgrounds, is good because, especially your sun ninth house, traveling is very important for you. And yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And then moon trine Uranus is very nice for intuition. That can literally make someone like psychic. Just like very like amazing ideas, out of the box ideas. Um, you know, it's all about, expressing the self in an unconventional way. Um, and you can excel in like, yeah, different activities, and you can be attracted to yeah, unconventional activities, but you can excel in those. Maybe astrology, who knows? Um, yeah, so South Node, fourth house, obviously, there's going to be a lot of, there's a need to to kind of be seen well in the eyes of the world. Um, and yeah, kind of repaying past life karma, with understanding and compassion, um, for other people's views and whatnot. Um, and with the family, lots of karma there too. And yeah, also learning to tolerate your own failures is super important. Like a lot of people with this, they can make life harder than it has to be. And it comes from past lives where one had to like work really hard for other people's respect. Um, so yeah, humility, right? Like having humility and the ability to really express your emotions in a very honest way is very important. So you can like then nurture others with that wealth of wisdom. Um, and yeah, just kind of, yeah, diving into the emotions and being able to communicate them. Very important. So yeah, and then your Juno is in Capricorn, so that would make you really attracted to like a more secure kind of traditional, even though this isn't like, you know, like there's a part of you that really wants that security in like a marriage mate, for example, right? Like a very high relationship, wants that like kind of like familial, um, like consistency, the person who's like a rock. Um, so it can be financial security, but also, a partner you can respect and who respects you. And it'll make someone really want like long-term commitments. And yeah, usually it's like later in life when the best ones come, or at least after the Saturn return 30, which are past. Um, and yeah, really wanting like relationships where that person feels like home, like they really, really ground you. So yeah, and loyalty, huge. And yeah, and then Venus in Taurus, it's very nice placement. And it's very romantic. But makes one, yeah, want like a very like, and it actually trines your Juno. So exactly. So, or not exactly, just elementally. So, really wanting someone who is reliable, sensual, like this kind of steadiness in the relationship, who's very solid, very secure, and it makes you actually usually um, reliable with finances. Um, yeah, I mean, it only is aspected by Chiron. So, there could be like a, you know, codependent potential for like codependency for sure. A potential. So it's about, yeah, finding that wholeness, and that's what is so important in, in this chart and in any chart, is to not need that other person, to want them, but you don't need them. So yeah. Um, and ninth house, like, the vertex also there. So eighth house. So it's through these like really intense relationships and experiences, shadow work, that you know you that's like kind of your doorway to higher awareness, right? Um, you know, these like really intense, profound experiences, and yeah, very sexual also, like a tantric kind of vibes, and just diving deeper and deeper into the esoteric and into your own shadow, into your own emotions. In Taurus, there's like a deep love of nature. So just like hiking, doing things like that, like being in nature can bring you so much wisdom and grounding. It's very important for you, I think. Um, so and also like being in touch with your body, right? Which is so important to be grounded. And yeah, there's this whole like tantric sex, I see, is like something that's like very like in your chart in a lot of ways that can really lead to like this enlightenment kind of energy. Also music, that's a huge portal for you. So anti-vertex being in Scorpio will draw you to people who have that like real depth on the deeper side of nature. And yeah. And during like important times in your life, it'll be people who have like a strong Venus placement, like or like Taurus energy, that will help you in like these really like pivotal moments in life. Um, so yeah, the people pleasing thing's huge. So it's very important to have like, yeah, that compassionate partner. Um, yeah. So the third house, Neptune, it's once again really good for like the right brain, for spiritual pursuits, the arts, all that kind of stuff. But there can also be like mental confusion, scattered mind, as I spoke about. But it's all about finding that channel, right? And like I said, Uranus is just very, like I said before, very like original, quick thinker. Want to study unusual subjects, approach life in your own way. Um, Also with siblings, if you have any, it can give like a kind of like unusual relationship. Neptune can give kind of like a confusing relationship, and Black and Lilith can kind of give like a little, like some almost darkness in that realm. Um, and yeah, in partnerships, it's also very, very important for you to have like very sound communication. Like I said, there is that tendency to be um, misunderstood. So um, that is massively important. So yeah, let's see. Let's see. Mars and Saturn, it could be like early setbacks, like where you feel like you're taking a step forward and then you get pulled back and you're like, it just creates all this frustration. But then after Saturn return, you have this like deep like ability to just like determination to just get past the setbacks, and really like work hard towards, different goals. And let's see. Yeah, just really wanting to like speak to people, like have deep conversations, like have like lots of deep conversations with people from different cultures with different worldviews and really like, just how I talked about before, how that ultimately contributes to this, to the career. And the mega importance of that. Um, and part of fortune on your midheaven is one a great. It's like a potential for fame. I have that as well. And it definitely can make someone like when they're really headed in the right direction with in terms of career, that can be like your flow, your flow state. And I see healer all over the place for you. It's just like it's like you're a Ferrari or like not for like what's better like it's like you're like a carriage with like nine horses and it's like they can just but they're super powerful and it's like learning like how to get all the horses to work together you know um because like with this placement it can be all over the place where one wants to go this way one wants to go that way and then it's just like very scattered, so hugely important. All right, so series, second, Scorpio. I guess I'll go back to my face while I finish this. That creates someone who really wants to be nurtured by depth. um they feel cared for um when they have lots of attention on them, when they're loved with intensity. And it makes someone very emotionally committed to those close to them, so if people don't reciprocate that, no bueno. And second house series people, they tend to be very generous with their money and with their resources. um They can also like to buy nice things, but you have to watch out for being too attached to those. And then you have Pallas conjunct your Mars, so that's interesting. Pallas in Libra, um, that really gives you this ability to see. You have this very diplomatic, which is also very good for things like counseling, right? This ability to kind of like see both sides of the story, help bringing like opposing um, parties into an agreement. It's very diplomatic, um, defender of justice type vibes. Um, and Palace in the first house is just about self-expression, making you very creative, as I said many times, right? Um, and it can also make one a little bit detached from their emotions, so that's the thing. So, like, defying conventional male female stereotypes and such. And having it on your Mars just gives more firepower to that. Um, it's like the third eye is Palace. So, yeah. And Vesta, where you at, Vesta? Fifth in Aquarius. So that makes you really like to work in team atmosphere, but like an atmosphere of freedom, I guess. But also like really wanting to escape from like a boring routine. That's like it makes one very very humanitarian. So like the work could really like you know be around that. Um, yeah, like a real commitment to humanity and different causes. Very important. And fifth house best, that makes you, it can make you, have the things you do for fun be your like you can have lots of dedication to your creative pursuits and projects. And yeah, it can make someone really like have perseverance in their creativity. Um, and also very dedicated to children if you have children. But yeah, with the moon in Pisces, as said, like in all this Neptune energy, basically you just take in so much, like 10 out of 10, like extreme of the energy around you. So understanding, and also a key here is being able to separate um from the mother's energy. There can be a tendency to take on, especially if your mother had like anxieties and stuff of that nature early on, like, or even both parents, like especially the mother though, like how you were nurtured by her early on is super important. Because a lot of people have this, they can take on their mother's baggage or shit and think it's their own, right? So it's really important to know what's yours and what's not yours. That's what really, really important. Very, very important. Okay, let's see about this. Any fixed stars. So, so yeah, once again, like poetic energy, um, like Sappho. Um, it's also good for money, and yeah, it's like it gives someone like a lot of like yeah, it's a nice one. But let me look a little bit closer. Let's see. Yeah, so it makes one like very like yeah, like aesthetic, like fine arts, all that stuff is very like lots of artistic sensitivity. Um and yeah, it'll kind of give that kind of Venusian vibe, I guess you can say. I hate when this happens. Like my beard reaches a point where I just have to do something about it. Um, mhm. So also it'll make you, drawn to people who are very free spirited, lively, independent. Um, and yeah, like such a big, I keep seeing poetry like everywhere, like creative writing, artwork. Um, so you can definitely benefit from writing poetry, even if you don't show anyone. It could be very beautiful, and you have it all over your chart. Yeah, and having art that can like really inspire other people to embrace their own individuality. And it's like a more of a daring kind of type of art that you probably like. Something very Aquarian, or even like, channeling anger you might have into your art. Okay, let's see. Neptune Galactic Center, that's just ultimate spiritual energy. Oh, crazy like ability to like go within yourself and just tap into like universal truths and whatnot. So that's beautiful. So that's not okay. So angel and the descendant, angel is obviously like, it is what it sounds like. So um it could be good for attracting you know, it could be very luck give luck at attracting like the right types of people, beautiful souls and relationships. But like, there's yeah, could give that luck. But then there's also Lilith there, the asteroid. So it can make one very like rebellious within relationships potentially and not willing to just like take shit. Okay. Oh my God, I can't see. There's so many. There's like a million numbers stuck together. Okay, so it's 28, 26. So Bellatrix. Okay. If you saw what I was looking at right now, it's like numbers crunched so close together. But yeah. Okay, so Bellatrix. The only one. And you have lust conjunct your moon. Interesting. So lust is what it sounds like, right? Um so lust is about lust. So lust it's like what arouses us, so to have it you know aspecting the moon like that, it makes sex um sex is like a means of emotional expression, like as I've said many times. It's like very like lots of depth in that area. So then Bellatrix, um which was, I need to see what degree is. So it's just barely an orb. Um, but yeah, it can make one like it can be very good for money. But also like very changeable and indecisive when it comes to business. But it's not super close. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully the audio isn't messed up. So much, so much, so much, so much going on here. So I hope you enjoyed. And oh my God, I kept it under 90 minutes. I'm so proud. It's like so rare for me. I pray that this audio isn't messed up. Anyways, let me know if you want to do a follow-up. I'll give you a reduced rate. What most people do is I know you're low on funds, so I understand. I was happy to extend that offer to you. So yeah, if you do want to do a follow-up, let me know. I'll give you a way reduced rate. Most people, what they do is the follow-up and current astrology. Usually it's $350 for current astrology, $150 for the follow-up, which would be $500. But I'd be happy to do the follow-up I'd happy to do the current astrology for $250 and the follow-up for, if you did both, I would charge $350. If you wanted just the follow-up, I would charge $120. And the follow-up is like, yeah, an hour where we talk just about the natal, where we combine, everything that I spoke about with your lived experience, and we kind of go back and forth about it, answer any questions you might still have. And the current astrology, so I do those, most people do that, unless there's like a financial issue or they're like an astrologer themselves. And basically that is, so you follow up first hour and then you move right into current astrology. And that's where I go over like everything that's affecting you now. That's where my psychology comes into hand, my two masters. But really I'm looking at like everything from your solar return to your transits, your progressions, to your solar arc, to your perfections, all these things to understand like the current, year ahead, basically. Year ahead plus, like the astrological weather for you. It's like the current chapter. So let me know if interested in uh both of those or one of those. And happy holidays, and have a good one. All right, ciao.